Good morning, students. This is the continuation of the lesson. So, in the last class, we have seen how M. Hamel he said that he was also responsible for whatever happened, and in the next paragraph, we can see that then from one thing to another, M. Hamel went on to talk of the French language, saying that it was one of the most beautiful language in the world. So he said that French language is one of the most beautiful language in the world. This is very important line. Please underline it. According to M. Hamel, French language was the clearest, the most beautiful, the most logical. We must guard it. That we must guard it among us and never forget it. This language is very important. It is a logical language, and we need to guard it, and we should never forget this language. This was the opinion of French. This was the opinion of M. Hamel regarding French language. It is the most clearest language in the world, most logical, and most beautiful language. These three things you need to remember, because when we people people because when a people are enslaved, as long as he holds fast to their language, it is uh, as if they had the key to their prison. Okay, why they say that language is a key to the prison? For example, you went somewhere, you go somewhere, and the language that you speak, it is very important. For example, two people, if you would not have learned English language, it would be very difficult for you to read now, isn't it? Similarly, when you go abroad, for example, if you see any two people talking, you will not understand if it is a French language or German language. Okay, so language is a key to the prison. Okay, so if you are if you are in a prison, the one and only key that you have is your language. If you know your language properly, that can solve many problems. Then he opened a grammar book and read us our lessons. I was amazed to see how well I understood it. All he said seemed so easy. I think too that I had never listened so carefully, and that he had never explained. See, this is called law of readiness. When when you are ready to learn something, it comes in your brain very easily. For example, during examination, when examination comes, for example, now whatever you are studying, that will not come to your brain that easily. But if I'll say that tomorrow you have exam, so you will double the rate of interest. Okay, so double the speed. You will be understanding, you'll be understanding properly, and then you'll be able and if you listen properly, you will understand properly. So this is the same thing. And the person also, because he knew that from tomorrow I'm not going to, I'll not have the privilege to teach, so that day he also taught with full enthusiasm and zeal, and students also tried to learn with full enthusiasm and zeal. Okay, I had never listened so carefully, and that he had never explained everything so much, with so much patience. When you do not know something, you need too much of information, only then you can understand a little bit. Okay, so for that too much of information, the teacher, he needs to explain in a very patient manner. He can't say that, if you don't know, just forget it. There is you, because you're a donkey, you don't have brains. No teacher can say that. Okay, a teaching job needs too much of patience. Okay, so it seems almost as if the poor man wanted to give us all he knew before going away, and to put it all in our heads at one stroke. So this person, he said that it seemed as if this poor person, he wanted to put everything into our heads, whatever he knew. But do you think it is possible? Definitely it's not possible at all. Everything we can't learn at one go. So this was definitely his fault too, and the students' fault too. All of them were to be blamed along with the parents. Okay, after the grammar, we had a lesson in writing. So grammar session was over, so they had again a session on writing. That day, M. Hamill had new copies for us, written in a beautiful round hand, Francis says. They looked like flags floating everywhere in the schoolroom. So in the schoolroom, he France they gave means M. Hamill, he gave new copies to everyone, and what was written there? Francis says Francis, and it seems that it all of the students they took small flags, okay, because this was written in their copies, each and every one of them. They looked like little flags floating everywhere in the schoolroom, hung from the rod at the top of our desk. You ought to have seen how everyone set to work and how quiet it was. So the class was very quiet during exam time. You see, when there's a final exam, and in the first hour, first, second, third, class is normally very quiet. Why? Because they try to concentrate in each and everything they write, which is very normal and contradictory to the normal classes. Okay, the only sound was the scratching of the pens over the paper. See, definitely in exam time also the same thing happens, isn't it? The sound that we hear is the scratching sound on the paper. Okay, so once the beetle flew in, but nobody paid any attention to them, not even the littlest one. So once there was a beetle, it's an insect, it flew inside, and normally what happens? When the teacher is explaining something, some of the students they just daydream, isn't it? They look outside the window and they notice every petty thing because they are not interested. Okay, but now there was a beetle that flew inside, but no one, even the small people, small children, they also did not pay any attention because they also understood the complexity and seriousness of the situation. Okay, once some beetle flew in, but nobody paid any attention to them, not even the littlest one, who worked right on tracing their fish hooks, as if that was French. Right on tracing the fish was hooks means what? They were trying to concentrate on whatever the person was, the M. Hamill, who teacher was saying. Okay, so on the roof of the pigeon cooed very low, and I thought to myself, will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? So this Frank, he had an idea that will the German people, they will make the pigeons also sing in German. So it's not possible, and somewhere he was feeling very sad because unknowingly you have a kind of a certain kind of love for your language, so that is very normal and very natural. Okay, so he said that you can't make pigeons sing, okay, because they will not sing in German. Okay, whenever I looked up from my writing, I saw M. Hamill sitting motionless in his chair and gazing first at one thing, then at another. Definitely, he was very sad. M. Hamill was very sad because he started gazing. Gazing means that, looking at one thing, and when you are disturbed, normally this thing happens. Okay, you look at one thing and you start thinking over the matter. Okay, but actually you do not have concentration on that thing. Okay, so as if he wanted to fix in his mind just how everything looked um, in that little schoolroom. Fancy, for 40 years he had been there in the same place. So he had been there in the same place for 40 years, and 40 years definitely it's not so easy. Okay, with his garden outside the window and his class in front of him. Just like that, only the desk and the benches had worn smooth. Okay, the walnut trees in the garden were taller. So it's been 40 years that he was in that school, and it was very difficult for him to forget everything. He said that only the desks and benches, it went smoother and there was no change. And yes, but the garden definitely it changed, it went taller and taller. Okay, and the hop wine, it's a kind of wine means it's a climber grapes that he had planted himself, twined about the windows to the roof. How it must have broken his heart to leave it all. He saw the hop wine grapes, hanging from the dangling from the window. So it's so beautiful, everything was so beautiful, and he made it himself. It was not a one day job, it was a 40 years of investment. In investing 40 years, it's definitely too very much. Okay, so he how it have broke his heart, leave it all, poor man, to hear his sister moving about it in the room, packing their trunks, for they must leave the country the next day. Okay, so he was feeling very sad because his sister, now she was moving the trunk. Normally packing is very exciting. You all, when you stay in the hostel, you start packing for your home. That is one of the most exciting thing for you all, isn't it? Again, when you do packing for your hostel, that is a bit saddening because you have to leave your parents and your friends and all. Okay, so this was definitely very bad for him because he need to leave his country, and this was definitely an utter shock to him because he never thought that this thing would happen ever in his life. Okay, moving to the next paragraph. But he had the courage to hear every lesson to the very last. After the writing, we had a lesson in history. Then the late babies chanted their ba baby bobu. Okay, so I'm giving you some time. Just remove the b from ba baby bobu. Just remove the b. What you will see? A E I O U. This is vowels. Okay, in French. Down there in the back of the room, old Hauser means the labor. He put on his spectacles, holding his primer in both hands. Definitely, he had his own, equipments, but he was very sad. Spell the letters with them. He also tried to spell those letters because he was very sad. He never learned them, and he will not be able to learn them ever. If this thing would continue, he would never feel it. But now, as something is taken away from him, his own language is taken away from him, he will have this guilt ever in his mind, that it was so sad that he stayed in that country so many years, but he was not able to learn that lesson. He had tears in his eyes, and he also chanted, not yes, chanted those words, ba baby bo boo. And this was actually for toddlers. But this person also, he thought, okay, before everything is finished, I want to grasp whatever is there. Okay, okay, so he could see that you could see that he was crying. His voice trembled with emotions, and it was so funny to hear him that we all wanted to laugh and cry. Ah, how well I remember it, that last day. So he said that, I will never forget the day. His face, he was very very sad, and looking that we wanted to laugh also, but we cried also because it was really a very emotional moment for him, us. Okay, so all at once the church clock struck 12, then the angelus. At the same time, angelus means it's a choir kind of thing wherein group people they sing in the church. Okay, at the same moment, the trumpets of the Prussians returning from drill. Again, there was a trumpet, a sound of trumpet for Prussians. They were returning from their drill. Their march sounded under our windows. Our windows. M. Hamel stood up very pale in his chair. I never saw him look so tall. Tall means normally when you say that why do you look so tall means so sad. It's not literally tall. Okay. Okay, my friends, he said, I, but something choked him. He could not go on. Something disturbed him. He was really disturbed by something. Definitely, we all know that by what thing he was disturbed. Okay, then he turned to his blackboard, took a piece of chalk, and he bearing on with his all his might, he wrote as large as he could. Five La France. Five La France means long live France. Just Please do not forget, this question always comes: what is the meaning of Vive la France? It means long live France. He wrote it on the blackboard because, when you're too very overwhelmed, when you're too full of emotions, you cannot speak it, you cannot speak properly. Okay, when you are very happy, you cannot speak. When you are very very sad, you cannot speak. So this moment was also that he was very sad, he could not utter a word. He wanted to say something, but he could not utter. And what he wrote, Vive la France, means long live France. Then he stopped and leaned his head against the wall, and without a word he made a gesture to us with his hands: school is dismissed, you may go. He did not do anything, he just leaned his head over the wall. He was very sad. That's why अपने सर को उन्होंने सर पे ऐसे लगाया वॉल पे. And then what he did, he just with a gesture means a position which is shown by hands. So with the gesture with his hands, he showed, just go away, the school is dismissed. This was the last class. A very very emotional story this is. I hope you are clear with it. And now I'm giving you the DPP. Please write the DPP and show it to me. Thank you.